September 26th. I guess we want to do a roll call.
Yeah.
Linda Dunn. Samuel Miller, that's me. Brian Wilmer.
Here.
Larry Akery.
Here.
Byron Sarmiento.
Present.
Mary Ann Atkinson.
Here.
Ellen Nagley.
Here.
Keith Bonner. Absent. All right. Did we get the minutes? Okay. Paul Sofka.
Here.
Luis Lehay. All right.
Asking about the minutes. They had them on the desk. They're right here.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas pledge. Honor Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Name up here. I didn't realize I had my name up here.
All right, on to the minutes. I'm not sure if we,
Actually, it looks like the first thing we do is we ask for if there are any public comments.
oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And just a point of order. So right now, when you see the green on your microphone, that means your microphone is live and active. If you want it to be, it can be. Usually what council does and PD&Z, they just kind of keep them off until you want to speak, and that way you don't get a bunch of crosstalk. So,
Good to know.
Thank you, sir.
sure. Well, especially if you say something under your breath. Never, right?
All right, we want to open the floor to any public comments. Dan, can you speak to that?
Hey, exactly. I literally just told Bobby he could go home. We're good tonight. So this is our first time having, I guess, alternates, right? I think that the idea is a couple of different things. So one, if someone had to step off of the board, we get the synergy going, and there's something, life happens and somebody had to step down. Well, then we've already got somebody that's been coming to the meetings and can move over, move seats, so to speak. So it's not required for you to be here, but it sure is helpful so that we could actually use you as an alternate should we need to. I suppose this is something we need to check with Bobby, but if we needed a quorum for something to do a vote or whatnot, that's what I would need to check if the alternate could stand in. They can? Perfect.
So as an alternate, when I step in, I'm assuming the responsibilities as a member, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
If I'm
Turn your microphone on. Turn your microphone on, Paul.
The other question is, if I have some comments as an alternate, all the board members are here, can I speak up, or what's the?
Of course, and it would be up to the chair to call on you, just like
Okay.
you would call on any member. But,
Okay, so
yeah,
if I
for sure.
speak up, then the board acknowledge you, the chairman, say, can I make a comment or something? Is that right? Yes. Okay, good, thank you. That's all I have.
All right, are there any additional public comments?
What?
All right, now we're to the minutes.
Do you have the agenda in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, and we'll just kind of follow through
Okay.
that, just
Gotcha.
each item one by one. So it looks like the first one is a,
Discussion. All right, discussion and possible action on City Hall Park design input from PGAL. I believe we have a representative here.
We do, and if it's okay with you, Chairman, I just wanted to kind of set the stage. So what we're talking about, I mean, and I just mentioned to our representative, so this is really our first project as a Parks Board, since we've revamped. So be gentle with our consultant and be gentle with our board because we're all brand new to this. But it looks like we might actually have a project. So already, in our second official meeting, the park that we're talking about is not a park at all right now. This is the property behind City Hall that we just purchased, right? So we own that whole, actually 2 parcels. What used to be Piece by Piece is still a building there right now. We're about to demo here that before too long. There's still a fence there, and then we have the property all the way to the corner. So what council has asked, instead of just a parking lot, which we certainly need parking once we add another building about the size of this one right here next door, when that happens, maybe we can be creative and have a park area over there. So what we're thinking is, what we're looking for tonight is kind of a corral. You're going to ask about the budget. We know what the budget of the overall project is, but right now, what is the corral? What would it look like? We can't do an amphitheater there. We can't do, but can we do some playground equipment? Yeah. Can we do do we want to talk about all-inclusive or, inclusive type of playground? Is this all ages, or do we just want this to be for the little ones? Do we want a dog park? Do we want a walking trail? So let's start big for right now on what could possibly go there. And they've already kind of worked up just some conceptual ideas just to get it across the finish line, really, with council on, what before we touch it, before we start demolishing anything or building anything, let's think this through. So does that kind of set the stage for where we're at? So I'll turn it over to you.
There we go. Now it's on. You did a really good job. Do you want to? Good evening. I'm actually with M2L Associates. I'm a landscape architect, park planner, arborist. I have lots of hats. I have done a lot of work with PGL. So the reason I'm here this evening is that Jeff Gerber couldn't be here, and he has confidence in me given my experience of working with them for 25 years and doing countless projects, park projects. A little bit about my firm. I've worked with the City of Houston Parks Department for over 20 years. I've done over 100 parks for the City of Houston. So this is, I can speak to just some generalities about what Jeff has informed me about what you're wanting to do with this facility, and also, yeah.
It just dawned on me. So y'all may not know what PGAL is.
That's my first question.
Oh, okay.
Apologies. Yep. So PGAL is the city's architect. Several years ago, we went through a selection process, and PGAL was the preferred architect. So they did this building. They designed the police station, the public works facility, and then they are going to design this new building as well. So the particulars of the park, it looks like this is going to be their subcontractor. Would that be the best way to say it? Consultant?
And I'm new to visiting with y'all, and you're new to as a board, so we'll get through this together. But suffice it to say, PGAL has done work with y'all, are under contract to do a project. Jeff with PGL gave me the presentation he did before council, and one of the things he had said was there's obviously a priority of the facilities, but there was also a priority to explore that property in the back as a potential park, given the intent of the city to have, a parks board and work through that process. And so he called me and said, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow night? You want to go talk about parks?" And I said, "Sure." That's, among everything that we do a lot of parks. And so what I wanted to show here is I cannot speak to the architecture. I cannot speak to what the program is, what Dan had talked about. They had shown in front of council big, rough placeholders of thoughts about what that property could be. And so I thought it'd be a good idea just to throw that up there as a reference, and then just talk a little bit about it. And I'm really kind of here as a resource, depending on where this goes, in terms of what the extent is. I would be in support of PGL, to help them work through that process. And we're working with them constantly on projects and also independently. So that's kind of the quick and short of kind of why I'm here, why there's not someone with PGAL up here, and why I'm here in their place, and just like I said, just be a resource for you all. Ask me any kind of questions. I can't get into details of how we got to where we are now, other than what I've just told you, and then we'll kind of go from there. So what this presentation showed was a couple different options, and I think the options for that property, these big placeholders of what if we did a dog park, what if we did a playground. Obviously, Dan talked about parking is important. We were here a little bit early. Yes, I'm an arborist, so you have some really nice trees. They've taken an abuse from our weather this year, but there's still some really nice trees out there that are kind of a good backbone. Jeff had mentioned something about maybe a pavilion, maybe a trail. Trails are always a good idea. Of all the parks I've ever done, any community that I've ever talked to, people like to get out and walk. So you've got the big trees. You could plant more. You've got kind of a good background of backdrop of what you could do for a trail system. And so this was, like I said, a placeholder. There were two options, but the back property is essentially the same. I think these two options were really more about the building and the facility build out. And so kind of what, our process and what we do a lot work with PGL and also with communities is, talk about what's important, to a community, what's important as a priority that you'd want to look at. A lot of times, if not every single time I deal with clients, and I've got a number of projects going on right now, money is always an issue. So what I like to do is say, give me what your big ideas are, let's plan for that, but know that there's going to be realities about what you can do. I think what my understanding was, the priority is this facility, but PGAL is being asked to say, okay, what can we do with that property to make it usable and friendly and be an asset in addition to the facilities that you have here for the community. And so that's kind of where we're at. And so both of these options are essentially the same. There's a lot of things. I just actually had a City of Houston dog park that we bid out that just came in. So we're doing those projects right now. I've got 4 projects under construction that have varying levels of site amenities and development and trails and what you want. So it's really about what do you think, and also given the newness of your board, what does the community think? Obviously, we have a good representation of the community, but do you need to go out and talk to people and see what they would like to see? That's really kind of up to you to make that decision. A lot of times we're working with entities that already have a parks plan. They've already gone out and talked to people. They've created some kind of document that they can use to move forward as opportunities arise and as funding is available. That's totally up to you. If you want to, as a group, say, we'll take it upon ourselves for this first project to put some ideas out there, and our responsibility with PGAL would be to put some of that into some a little bit more tactile, pretty picture ideas and costs of what it takes to do certain projects. Accessibility, you mentioned Playground for All Abilities. We do those kinds of projects as well. As a landscape architect in the state of Texas, I have to, if I touch a project, I have to comply with the state implementation of the federal guidelines of ADA. So it will be accessible, but there are certain things that, as a landscape architect and park planner, that go beyond just getting people to a property. There's tactile, there's auditory, there's social barriers for people, for kids and adults using parks. And so you can really take it to a much higher level. And I try to be thinking as a designer, don't just think about someone that has a physical impairment, because there are other things that are barriers to enjoying parks. And also just, like I said, trails are number one. Getting out there and people walking around are important. Safety is important. I'm also a CEPTED practitioner. It's this crime prevention through environmental design that talks about safety and prioritizing safety in addition to aesthetics and functionality. So we look at the whole gamut of what do people want to see, how do we get them there, how do we make them enjoy the situation, give them a reason to come here, and how do they get the full access for however, how much you do or how little you do, and they do it in a safe way. So that's kind of my big, kind of picture, kind of thoughts and ideas of what I understand the intent of this is. And what we would do is just look at different ways of utilizing the plan. So I did not do this drawing. They're architects. We do landscape, so we'll do it a lot nicer than this. But Jeff, and PGL is really good at doing the visualization, but that's our job, is to give it some life and feel and understanding of how we can best utilize this particular property. And don't tell Jeff or don't tell PGL I said that, but that's why they hired me, to make the site look nice.
You know the size of that? What kind of square foot?
Did we mark this out? It's like acre and a half. What was it? 2 acres? It's like acre and a half, something like that. Yeah, I think it was like 60,000 square feet, 70,000. I didn't actually put a.
What do the green dots represent?
Those are just placeholders for trees. There are more trees out there. On the west side, there are those 3 really big live oaks.
If I were to
There's
show
one
y'all
really
that.
nice tree right there that I would suggest you save, because it's one of your nicer trees on the site. But
Yeah, the very first layout this goes back to, hey, the city's thinking about purchasing these lots. Jeff, would these help? Would it make sense for us to go out and purchase these lots? Well, here's how much you could get, and the entire thing could be parking. Quite frankly, George R. Brown parking. We could do that. Well, that's not very exciting. And we don't need that much parking either. So plus there's some really nice trees there. You'd hate to lose those. So can you just, like you said, put placeholders there? So for the most part, they're on top of an existing tree that's out there right now. Now, some of those very well could be trees that need to go. I don't know. But for now, let's try and work around them. That was the idea. Like, just pretend like those need to stay, because I think a lot of them do. But we've talked about, with council, I wish I could point on this a little bit. Obviously, this is Stripes right here. This is the pond that we share. This little area up here, this little parking, perhaps like a little food truck kind of situation, where food trucks can come in, and we have the kids out there. We love to do the Easter egg hunts, and we have to kind of partner up with the school district, which works fine, but wouldn't it be nice if we could do this in the backyard, right here? Whether it's a trunk or treat, whether it's Santa Claus, all these little things. This is a very, very small site. 1.5? Okay, there you go. Acre and a half. But let's do something fun with it while we're there. So I think that's what we, to your point, Paul, what could we possibly do there? We think we could fit a little playground there. We think we could fit a walking trail. The big blue area over to the far side, now keep in mind, that's 1128, right? That's 1128 right here. That's a busy road. So if we're going to encourage kids or dogs or anything to go over there, we're going to have to fence it, of course, right? We might not need that much detention, because there's existing impervious cover from the 2 homes that were there and the garages and everything else. And if that's all we put, that one small parking area, we might not need very much detention at all.
Yeah, that was my question, was what are the demands of the annex? I guess in my brain, we should start off with what we need, what the goal here is, and it's parking. So how much parking do we need? And that will drive the amount of retention. So is there parking that's required for a certain square footage of the new building? Or
There is. We're going to be way over the minimums, but the tricky part is, if you ever come up here on a court day, minimums are out there. We want maximums. Yeah. Like, we need as much as possible.
Worst case scenario, I get you, yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's really the tricky part is, on those days, it's on a Sunday, 0 right now, and on a Thursday, lots. So you got to kind of plan for that. So what I don't know if you can tell, but what the thinking is that maybe, just maybe along large, we've got on-street parking, which we don't have right now. So kind of like Angleton, maybe, around the courthouse area, where it's pretty seamless to go from one building, like the engineering building, over to the courthouse if you ever have to do that. Kind of the same idea, where we can get a lot of parking. Obviously, we'd have to close in the ditch, put storm sewer pipe in and everything like that. But that's a lot of valuable space, and that way we wouldn't eat into the acreage.
Yeah, that sounds really the way to go. I know it's more up front, but
I have a question.
Yeah, of course.
I've heard two different ways that that large was going to be closed or that large was going to be open. Have we decided that large is going to be open, or is it?
The short answer is no. Jeff and his team, they're working on having literally a pre-development meeting with the city, which is kind of fun, right? So, and what's your project, by the way? It's a city project, so that's going to be fun. Like we're having a pre-development meeting on a Thursday morning for our own project, but that's the right way to do it. So that's what we want to kind of flesh out: is does it make sense to abandon the right of way, but still have the ability to get from one side to the other? But we sure want people to slow down if we're walking across the thing. So we just need to kind of flesh that out. Definitely, there's not a plan where we would close it. No matter what, we still need to access through it. But we want the ability to, hey, if there is I'll just say a carnival or an Easter egg thing, we want to be able to put barricades on both ends and close it off, Is that fair to say? So I don't know yet. I could have just said that, but I wanted you to, we're thinking about it.
Okay.
On this project, as far as the funding, are you all looking for, just based on this schematic, a phased approach, or could you do this in all one timeline as far as
So
starting?
right now, so this was part of a certificate of obligation that the city got in 2023 for the police station, public works facility, and this expansion. So it's $6 million is what we have left from those two projects. And whenever Jeff and I sat down as to trying to program this and what we need as far as space, it's about a 10,000 square foot. So it's basically this building again, just on the other side. And if we don't add all the parking, again, it doesn't mean anything to you, but just imagine that whole parcel as parking. Even with that, we were going to be able to hit the $6 million, under $6 million mark with FF&E furniture and everything in the building. So if it's not going to be parking, it's going to be playground equipment, it's just, we're offsetting it, I guess. So I don't know exactly what that budget's going to be just yet. That's what we're going to have to flesh out, once we come to a better understanding of the site plan itself. But to answer their question, is it phased? I don't think so. I think we're going to try and do it all at one time. Now the construction phase, absolutely. So what we would need to do is the parking lot and the park and everything in the first phase, because once we start messing with our parking lot, we're going to, people that work here, we're going to need a place to park. So just a matter of function, we'll need the parking lot first, and then they can do what they need to do over here as far as tearing up the old parking lot or whatnot.
I have a question.
Property south of there,
The property south,
south of the proposed park.
well, south, we're on south right now. So
I'm sorry, on the north side. I'm sorry, north side.
north of all of that, it's an individual homeowner that's immediately to the north. Are you talking about the one that's under construction on the other side? I think it's a dentist office. Yeah.
The one owner owns all that wooded area.
Yeah, it's from 1128 all the way through to Palmetto.
You don't know of any plans or anything for that, do you?
They just bought that a couple years ago. The folks that live in there.
I think Linda had a question.
Thank you.
Comment.
My question is, what types of activities do you envision for this park, as far as like fairs or, like our Saturdays? It's wide open? You don't have
It
any
is.
Purpose right now?
Honestly, the timing could not be more perfect to have. I mean, that's what a lot of y'all do for a living and have done for a living. So, I mean, it's somewhat of a blank canvas. What do y'all think needs to go there? So you had mentioned about input from the citizenry. This is our citizen. This is sort of our what?
Expert citizens.
Yeah, our expert citizens. That's a good way to put it, Jose. Yeah, exactly.
We're not just citizens, we're experts.
Expert citizens. Yeah, they're experts at being citizens.
But we did do the survey and all that stuff
Yep.
too, that we had the citizens come out for mostly. So a lot of the stuff that they're putting into that has already been said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this isn't the be-all, end-all park. We have other parks that are actually in our master parks plan. This one wasn't even contemplated, so this is sort of a bonus park. In a way, it kind of makes up I guess you might say. There was a small park that was at the police station, and that one has since gone away since we've made the forever home at the police station over there. So if y'all remember, it was kind of it was an okay park. I mean, it
Yeah.
had some playground equipment, it had some picnic tables and whatnot. But anyway, so in a way, this is kind of to make up for that, because that one's probably not going to go back there on that particular location.
Yeah.
So it's kind of wide open. What do we want to put there?
My only, it's a great design. I think that what goes on there, it would be nice if we had a more comprehensive parks plan, because we could say, we don't have enough playground equipment scheduled in all of our other parks. So what we need is, we need a pavilion, or we need a splash pad, or we're lacking one of these in our park system. So lacking that, it's kind of hard to say, you could start with this one and put stuff in here.
On the ground, we're lacking everything.
We are, yeah.
We can't lose.
But it's hard,
Right.
like if we had a plan, like we know we're going to put 4 splash pads around the city, that kind of a thing. So
I can't hear you. Could you turn your mic on?
it is on. I just have a weak voice.
Yeah, so, just pocket parks. I kind of like the idea of just pocket parks wherever we can put one, and this would be a little pocket park if we get the idea of, like you say, it's not everything, but here's a little pocket park that happens to be adjacent to this place. Another pocket park might be more of a bird watcher kind of a place where it's small, but it focuses more on a different user. This is more already wide open paved, a lot of thoroughfares, 1128, busy Highway 6.
As crazy as it is, this is a courthouse, right? Where we're sitting in it. And so when people come, I don't know how many times I see people sitting in the parking lot. They drove their family member or whatever, so they're waiting out in the parking lot with the kids or whatever with the AC running. Wouldn't it be nice to be waiting at the park and playing around and getting them all exhausted so they can take a nap when they get home or whatever? Wouldn't that be nice? So.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would add, I don't know how long ago you did a parks plan, and I'm getting up to speed on kind of what you're looking for. The National Recreation and Park Association has, over the last probably
2016.
decade, has moved away from finite decisions on level of service or what should a community of 15,000 or how many people, and really about what it is that the community wants. So there are some guidelines that are still really useful about, okay, if you have a certain demographic, certain size, certain square mile, that you should have X number of acres. But in terms of use, it's really, as they've moved away from this organizational quick chart of, okay, I should have 5 basketball courts or 6 baseball, about what does the community want?
Right.
I will say, just this basic programming, you can't go wrong. I mean, this is, we do these kind of neighborhood pocket parks, 1 to 5 acres, where it has a trail, has a playground. Shade is incredibly important. I'm doing a lot more playgrounds with shade. On most of my city parks that I'm doing now, we're doing shade. Those sort of extra things like, a dog park isn't always done in a park. Splash pads aren't always done in a park. Those sort of extra things, but as long as you've got a playground, a trail, a pavilion, access, and nice landscaping, you're going to get people.
Yeah.
And it's safe. So it's really about what are those other things. Does a dog park make sense, or does a splash pad make sense, or a lot of times what we do in communities is we'll do a pavilion I usually like to put pavilions next to playgrounds because parents like to watch the kids. And if you have a playground on the other side of the park, you can't watch your kids. You want to be in shade, unless you have a lot of shade. And we usually will sometimes look at, if we do a splash pad or if we don't do a splash pad, make a bigger paved area so you could have an event, or you could have whatever, a fair or some kind of festival or something where you could put up, some kind of structure. So there's different things you can do to make it task oriented and multi-use by just having a little bit more paving next to your pavilion. So there's a lot of things that, as Dan said, that's part of the process, is to work through the what ifs and what would be nice, and obviously size of the park has an implication. One of the things I look at when I look at this plan, a dog park in a detention area, there's some problems with that. but we can work through that. You're usually dog facilities. We've done artificial turf. We've done mulch. The one that I mentioned, we just bid. The city, Houston, wanted to do DG, decomposed granite. Not necessarily the best surface, but turf, in a small, less than 1 acre site for dogs, very hard to keep. You're going to end up dirt. You're going to end up with dirt. So you might as well start out with dirt because that's what it's going to end up being. And my 2 girls have dogs, so I know and they're adults, so I know what dogs can need some place to roam. But you can do an effective dog park in a small spot. Just have to understand. So those are the kinds of things that we can help you with and say, okay, what does this look like? What are my options on a playground? Do we want to just do a real simple structure, or do we want to appeal to a broader sensibility, community commitment to do playgrounds for all abilities? Or, those are things that we can help you kind of work through that. And I know you wouldn't be sitting here unless you had some very strong ideas about, what's important. And so that's something that we can. I don't typically dictate what things go on. I listen, I hear, and I provide ideas. And ultimately, we come up with a plan together that, will give us the best approach and the best utilization of it and fits within the budgets that you might have available.
I think, and I'll scooch a little more forward, I think that this plan is pretty much exactly what our city needs right now. We need a big parking area where we can have like our farmers market and food truck festivals and stuff like that. So the parking would be good on weekends. We need a covered area, a pavilion where we can have exercise classes and concerts and stuff like that, small events. I'm with the library, and we're looking to have more events. And there's literally almost no place in the city where you can have events like that, where you can have people, be around a pavilion. That was my question about the being able to drive through on the street. Is safety. If you're gonna, Large is a pretty fast-moving traffic street. So, but I like the idea of being able to close it. But I like this plan. The big blue circle, is that a pavilion that's up on the top part, or what is?
This, I think this was.
You mean the purple ellipse?
This was the dog park.
That's playground, or even
That's
that.
dog park. Where is there's like a pavilion, a covered
Kind
area?
of showed over here.
They
Okay,
have a gazebo in right there is,
gotcha. That's not big, like you couldn't have,
like amphitheater kind of, not.
not
necessarily that
amp, I mean, we're not talking anything big.
I think it was more of a
Covered
gazebo.
area.
I think that, if I remember right, is it a pavilion or is it a gazebo? Because the idea was that, every city hall around here has a spot where people can go take pictures or even a small wedding, right by their city
Yeah.
hall, and we don't have that right now. So I think that was the idea. It was just a little placeholder somewhere in there, literally like a gazebo. The other thing that we don't have on here, and this just came up with the farmers market, we probably need an outdoor restroom of some sort, even if it's just a couple of, however that works, unisex or whatever. Both of those tracks have water and sewer to them, thankfully. So but it's going to cost something, and we need to figure out where that makes sense. We could use that right now for the farmers market because we just keep City Hall open so people can come in for now. But
What about other utilities, electricals? Is any plan to?
Electrical's there already. It's above ground right now, and it's power pole right smack in the way. So I think we'd bury that and put it where it makes sense for sure to the gazebo. And if we're gonna have lights, or then it gets into is the trail going to be lit up at night, or all those kind of things, because we don't want it to be unsafe, of course.
Even if you don't put the lights there starting off, at least go ahead and run the
Exactly.
infrastructure.
Yes, sir.
And what about thinking of city employees and community? What about like picnic areas where they can go over there for lunch, or even if they wanted to go walk? I do like the idea of the trail, but I also like the idea of coming to the park, having a picnic, having the kids play, and do stuff like that. But it would also be there for the city employees to go utilize for lunch, if they wanted to go outside for lunch.
Have you watched
Not necessarily covered, but
our employees literally just walk the parking lot right now? 'Cause
see, and that's what,
If you'll see, it's hard to see, but there's some
Yeah.
little
Like little
brown
boxes.
rectangles in there, and there's some
Tables.
picnic tables up in there.
Yeah, I don't see those.
He's got a close up here. It's eight picnic tables is actually on there, tucked up among the trees.
Yeah, I didn't know y'all had that. Okay,
So there you go.
yeah, okay.
No, I don't think I might be able to, let's see.
So that's gonna be the retention pond. We're gonna have a massive lake and I like it.
Just lost the,
Yeah,
Ride your horse around there.
here we go.
Do we need a dog park in this part of the city? It's just a question.
What was that you first?
Do we actually need a dog park in this part of the city? If you think about where the neighborhoods are versus here, the people on this side of town have big yards. I don't foresee the Manvel proper coming to the dog park. However, if the neighborhoods, I thought most of the neighborhoods had something like that. I may be wrong because I don't live in the neighborhood, but utilizing a dog park here, you guys don't bring your animals to work, right? Okay, and that's why I was asking, not at the moment. But maybe, I'm not against the dog park, I'm just putting that out there. Where this site is not necessarily, a lot of people around here.
Yeah, so
that
the dog park idea wasn't driven from input, or was it, or do people, when they come for the farmer's market, does a lot of people bring their animals?
Honestly, how it came about, if I can, was if we needed the detention pond there. Well, darn it, you hate to burn up a bunch of your property with a pond. And that goes back to when we thought there was going to be a big parking lot. So the idea from council was, well, how about if we double purpose that, double use that? And it's not just a detention pond, it's a detention pond and a dog park, So it was that simple. It wasn't, hey, we need a dog park right here. It was really trying to just utilize our property to the best of our abilities. So,
Is it, do we ever consider doing the kind of the vault approach to the retention, where you can actually utilize the space on top of the retention, the actual water retention?
you're talking about underground detention?
The vault, yeah.
So
Is that just too expensive?
It's about twice as expensive.
Okay.
And it's great if you have some change in topography, but if it's flat like we are here, then the only way to do it is to go underneath the flat and then pump it back out, which then you've got mechanical pumps
Right,
and
I got
expense
you.
and all that other stuff.
Okay.
If you've got natural topography, then that's, you do it on the hill, so to
Right.
speak. But really, hopefully, again, we have so early in this process, hopefully we're not going to need much detention at all.
Yeah.
I don't mean to bury the lead here, but as it turned out, when we closed on this property, the piece by piece, they presented us with a receipt that they had actually bought an acre foot of regional detention from the drainage district many, many years ago at $15,000 an acre foot. So we actually have an acre foot of detention capacity somewhere in their system. And it's still valid. It transfers with the, so that helps tremendously. The detention for all of this property over here, that was already designed. That's why there's the pond next to us. So that was big enough for this whole thing here. But anyway, again, so the first thing that we'll do is we'll figure out how much impervious cover is over there.
Okay.
And then how much because all you have to detain for, your detention is the delta, like how much new impervious cover you're bringing in. If you're not bringing in any new impervious cover, then there's no detention required. Plus, we have an acre foot to, of buffer, if you will. Yeah.
What about that environmentally friendly parking, like what they're doing at the church?
That's also expensive. It's a possibility. And we'll see how the church does. Redeemer, another church in town, Redeemer did it a few years ago, and they've said if they had to do it over again, they wouldn't.
Yeah, and they don't have that much over there, do they?
No, it was a kind of a
Church here
test.
is doing like the whole parking lot, right?
Yeah, because they were out of room. They had no other room to do it. Yeah. So back to the question on the dog park. So if we're trying to do too much, and that's okay, and if that's what this board's thinking, maybe not right on 1128, but don't forget, we still need a dog park, but maybe not here, and that's okay. That's good intel. that also opens up now all of a sudden the hiking and bike trail, or excuse me, not bike, excuse me, the hiking trail is maybe bigger, or maybe that's where the pavilion or whatever. It opens up the site a little bit more, I would suppose, right?
I think one thing we need to consider as well is sometimes when you don't have a dog park, the park becomes a dog park. Now you got to worry about people making sure that their dogs stay on the leash and stuff like that. So that's just one consideration.
I would like to echo what Mary is saying. I think utilization of that corner would be better for the park. And I see this park as being used by the schools and parents. For example, they're going to waiting for their kids, or they're going to meet somebody. That'd be a good idea. And we've got Crow Park. We've got all kinds of room. That's where the dog park ought to go, at Crow Park. I mean, it's an ideal place. It's isolated. Dogs can roam around as long as they want to. I really see that as a better opportunity.
I disagree, because I live on this side of town. I'm not going to drive to Croy Park. So if there's a dog park here and we could do dual purpose, I'm going to bring my dog here. I'm not going to drive all the way to Croy Park. So I think if we could do dual purpose with a dog park, I think that's a great idea for people to live here, because we can't let our dogs off the leashes. So if I have a place where I can bring it, let it off the leash in a fenced-in area, that works out for a lot of people on this side of town.
I think that's a good point.
I think it's good to get multiple use out of the detention pond. You don't have to have one dog park for your entire city. You know, it's good to have them scattered around, and we could have one here, and we could have one at Croy Park, which is a good spot for a dog park. My only suggestion would be to make the pavilion a little bit larger, that you could use it for more stuff. But other than that, I think it's a fine design.
When you say pavilion, you mean the
The
gazebo?
Yeah. I think that we could use it for, if you have a food truck festival or a farmer's market, it's always nice to have a nice little place where you could put a band for some live music. That's kind of separated from the parking area. It's nice to have a place where you could have more of a family reunion, or a little bit, if it starts to rain and you having an event in the park, it's good to have more cover.
Thinking like the Hallmark movies where you can decorate it, and
I guess, yeah.
You know,
I'm really thinking of just like a
if it's
roof.
big enough.
You know,
Yeah.
just like just a covered roof.
Wedding photos, all those kinds
Yeah,
of
with the
quinceañera,
big, like the big,
whatever.
like how some of the older towns have big gazebos in the center of town. You know, kind of like what we were talking about with Beeville, even though, but,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I know it's not going to be in the center of town, but big enough to do something like that.
Yeah, I wasn't really imagining like a giant bandstand, but just more of a covered area. It wouldn't have to be that elaborate. Yeah.
Like just shade, like
Shade,
the
yeah.
ones that pass through air, like a canvas, or do you mean like a hard cover?
I would mean a hardcover like a roof. If it's a rentable space, it would be good for the Parks Department. Someplace that, it's a defined area where you rent the space to compensate the citizens for the fact that you're using up something that they would normally have access to. That money goes back to the Parks Department, but it has to be a defined space so that you know, like, we've rented this area. But it's good for all kinds of stuff. A covered area could be used for many different things.
Yeah, and it sounds like we're talking aesthetics with the gazebo and more function with the pavilion. So,
Yeah. And
Now,
it's
you're-
hard to tell, what size is that, like the one that's at Croy Park now, that gazebo, or is that larger? I know the one there it would hold 4 or 5 people.
Yeah, I don't know that that's
Nothing's been
necessarily
defined
the
yet.
That
size
one's
that was
tiny
specific.
compared
Yeah.
to what I'm thinking. The one at
Okay.
Croy is tiny. It's more, I think, of a decoration.
Yeah.
It's a place to sit.
Is there a scenario where you have both?
The pavilion's more activity oriented.
Now, would a cover or pavilion interrupt the trees?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, they don't have a large foundation. It wouldn't be a raised area. It just would be roof on the ground.
But you wouldn't, I apologize, I haven't really looked at that part of the property. I know there's trees back there, but I'm like you. I don't want to cut the trees down if we don't have to.
Absolutely not.
No, we're not talking.
Yeah, there's no reason to cut the trees down, and I'm just thinking as a pavilion, that's not going to overshadow the trees or,
Right.
yeah.
What I'm envisioning is a covered roof that would be supported on poles that you would put into the ground. It could be it could look nice. It wouldn't be, industrial.
Not like
But-
Pearland. That one's more industrial at Independence Park.
That one's
Yeah.
really big.
Yeah.
That's real big. I'm
Yeah.
not talking
Yeah,
about that
but
size.
that, like,
pavilion.
when you say the poles, yeah, because that one looks industrial.
Yeah, that one has a concrete apron under it, too.
Yes, it does.
Basketball courts.
Yeah, exactly. This is, it's a small area, just a roof that's
It's like
20 by 20. Yeah, something
Okay.
like that.
I'm doing one on a community pool that's 20 by 40 or 22 by 40 some, and it's, like what you're talking about is more of the bigger multi-use pavilions that are really tall. These have, 10-foot eave heights
Yeah.
and you can do some really nice ones. And I built one last year that was like 25 by 40 and it had a wood underdeck and split roof. I mean, there's all kinds of things you could do to make it. Obviously, those come with
Sure.
some cost implications, but I think someone said something about making it something that's visually appealing too, and kind of creates a centerpiece. And it's not to say that you couldn't do a smaller gazebo that was more iconic as a visual element and maybe seating, and then do something that was more functional. There's nothing that says you couldn't. It's big enough to be able to do something like that.
Yes.
Because I like
Would
the
there-
idea of the gazebo and coming to take pictures, graduation pictures, wedding pictures, quinceañera pictures. I mean, we don't have anything like that really. And I know sometimes people use the church over there on Magnolia, but just for the pictures and the trees. But it'd be nice to have something that everybody kind of knows about
Right.
over there. That's what I was talking about for the visual part.
And there's some really nice looking canvas, the heavy-duty canvas shade that's providing a splash of color, you know what I'm talking about? The kind of triangle shape.
Triangle shape.
I could see that be providing some shade with the playground or whatever, that really will accent here an additional gathering space, additional to the gazebo or pavilion, whatever you want to call it. Do you like using those things in spaces
I
for
tend to
shade?
use the fabric shades over playgrounds just because it's easier to install, but I've done
Well, fabric shade, you know what I'm talking about.
pavilions with,
Yeah.
that are square shaped that have the fabric, so it's a metal frame but has fabric. I tend to use those also for, it used to be that people liked exercise stations along a trail, but what we're finding over the last 5-10 years is that usually it's parents or young parents that want to do something while their kids are doing something, so we've been doing a lot more
Like the
congregated clustering of exercise equipment, and then if you want to walk, you walk. It's all about, for the most part, you're talking about parents that have young kids, or, preteen is a very difficult age to address, but we've done that with some other, dynamic climbers and things like that. You can get preteens to really, or young teens to get involved in that, but you're talking about people with parents, and the parents aren't going to let their kids get too far from them. So, you need to provide those opportunities, whether it's seating by a shade tree or a pavilion, or they can do their deal and exercise, and they can still watch their children. So we've been doing that quite a bit. And doesn't take up a lot of space.
Dan, had a
I was
comment?
just going to, just a suggestion, I mean, could we have a gazebo somewhere back in the shaded area, like we're talking about aesthetically pleasing? If that dog park isn't there, or if it's smaller, I mean, couldn't your pavilion be right here? Does it have to be one or the other? Could it be both? Just a thought.
Absolutely. It seems as if the playground, seems as if it's in a very sunny spot. And I don't know, maybe we could,
But it can't be like we have in Coral.
yeah. But yeah, it is, anywhere on the property would be good. For me, I would put the playground more amongst the trees off on the right-hand side, and then put the pavilion closer to the parking,
Where the pavilion is, I mean, where the playground is.
where the playground is. That way, the playground would be shadier. I worked at Discovery Green for a while, and we have, decades. People would be under the trees, and then when it started to rain, they would all run to the building to get underneath the, from right there at the playground. So I think that, having a covered area would be good to have somewhere there on the.
Yeah, and I will, just as a side note, for the city of Houston, 99.9% of their parks are free to the public, but they charge for pavilions
Yeah,
because they're such high demand. And
Yeah.
I'm always putting pavilions in that they want, because people use them a lot. It's really, really high demand to have that ability. If it's a good size and you can get, decent amount of people under it.
well, like I said, it would be good to have a rentable space. The city wouldn't have to charge, but it does make things more orderly.
It just helps to, even if you don't charge, have some way of controlling it.
Scheduling.
Because you will get people that will, you want to kind of avoid conflicts where you can. That'd be a way of doing it.
I think that a hardcover might be a better idea long-term. The canvas is cost-effective. You'll have to replace it every 5 or 10 years. But a hardcover, I think, would be long-lasting for future generations. Costs a little bit more upfront, but it would be maybe a little bit larger in a rentable space. So that's just my opinion.
Yes, but I mean, we've had some pretty good weather events this year. And I'm not saying I don't like my fellow citizens in Florida, but I'm glad it's there and not here.
Oh, God.
But they do, 5 years is about the max, unless you get a really good weather event, and you might get less. But it does degrade over time. It fades. It's nylon fabric, but it does degrade pretty quickly.
Are we going to get a parks person to take care of all this, Brian?
Don't look at me.
I mean, I know we've talked about it before, and it's on somewhere along there, because it's, Public Works is taking care of the parks.
Yes, ma'am. So in the approved budget this year, council approved 2 positions. One, a facilities superintendent, essentially, so somebody that can take care of the actual buildings. We actually have more than one building now, right? We're about to have a police station and public works facility in this facility. And then in addition to that, a groundskeeper or someone that is going to be more trained than just, there's a big difference in equipment and everything from mowing ditches to mowing grass to, taking care of bushes, right? So not to oversimplify, but yes, that's just the very beginning. I mean, we don't really have, of course, a parks department yet. Ultimately, that's where we'll be for sure. And we're working on both of those job descriptions right now, and as soon as October 1 comes, then we'll be advertising for both of those positions. Yeah.
Well, I like the design too, and I agree about the playground should be a little bit closer to the trees. The pavilion, I mean, I'm fine with the pavilion either way. Yes, a hard top would last a little bit longer. It just needs to be taken care of like anything else. I'm still kind of on the fence about the dog park because I still, I know we don't have one there. I mean, I'm not saying I'm totally against it. I'm just kind of on the fence about it just because of where we're locating this park at. That's all. I mean, that's just me saying that out loud. I like the ideas about the visual effects, the people from the city being able to go over there and have lunch and have a calm area, but also have the kids there,
I like the design very much. I would move the playground a little bit further away from the parking area. It just is a little too busy, too crowded, too noisy for kids. Put it more under the trees, and then that's where I would have the covered area. And I would keep the bandstand gazebo over on the corner. But I like the design very much. I know that if we have restrooms, they probably should be where the pavilion is. It's a lot easier to maintain restrooms if you can get a vehicle close to them, to drive up and take care of them.
And you've already got plumbing there where the home was, yeah. So if you were to shorten that by half, the blue area, you're if I remember right, you're talking about where the plumbing should be. if I have my mind right, where existing facilities are. Is that right? I'm just saying, if we can imagine right now cutting that cutting the blue square in half. Yes.
Like where the house is
Right, yeah, that's where plumbing goes. Well, but we also have plumbing over here too. So if the pavilion goes right here, that's what we're saying, right? If the pavilion goes right here, maybe the restrooms on, all part of that slab. In League City, they've got those where it's not a separate, I don't know which one makes the most sense. Is it better to have a standalone restroom or right there as part of the pavilion?
If we're just talking about a small, like we're working on one for City of Brenham, it's tied to the pavilion.
Right.
But it's also it's a pretty good sized pavilion. So I think given the size of this, it'd be better to probably separate it.
Okay.
So that someone playground could use it or it can't be from the pavilion. I think just the scale.
Yeah, then we could, like you said, put it over here and if the playground equipment's essentially back in there or something.
Yeah. I think you generally want playground equipment a little bit further away from the traffic, but you want the restrooms to be closer to where you can drive.
Yeah, I like to be at least 100 feet from any kind of roadway if you can.
For a playground?
Yeah.
Yeah, do we have 100 feet there to be distance?
If you've got some barrier, but I think you could, depending on where it's at, like where it's sitting now, it's a little bit close, but you have the parking lot in the way. And depending on where it's at, I'll put, the Texas CPSC, Consumer Protection Safety Council and Playground says if you don't have at least 100 feet from a roadway, you're supposed to put a fence.
Yeah.
I'm not talking 6-foot fence. It could just be something to keep
So you're
keep your
considering,
2-year-old from taking off right away.
so you're considering the drivable area to be
Yeah,
large?
yeah, 'cause
and
they're not gonna
the
go running
parking
into the-
area. Okay.
But there's ways of doing that. But we're not talking about doesn't have to be totally enclosed. It's just something to keep.
Right. The only other thing I would suggest is we never had electricity on the other side of the lake at Discovery Green, and we always missed it. During construction, they didn't put any power over there. So many times we wanted to put up Christmas ornaments or a display or something, right? I would put the ability to have power all the way around on the back of the trail and whatnot, just because you never know who's going to come out and want to put something up that has to be powered.
Would the farmer's market be able to take place in the park as well? Would we transition from right here to over there possibly? So power outlets would work out great for those folks as well.
Yeah, without having to bring.
Yeah, and you could still do duplex outlets. I've done that for communities where they want to do seasonal lights, and we'll put duplex outlets. Usually it's like every 100 feet or so, or 200 feet, so you can still string lights, and those are things that can be done. And they're I won't say they're totally vandal-proof, but you can get some that are, it take quite a bit to beat them up. But definitely at the pavilion, you want to have some power, so that you could have speakers or something like that. But, it'd be pretty easy to put, maybe as part of pedestrian lights throughout the trail, have a duplex on it, so it's part of the light fixture if you wanted to, be able to put lights on it.
We're early on, but do y'all have, for the walking trail, what do you think that should be? What should be the composition, I guess?
Deep gravel.
So I'm kind of mixed on that because I know that's easier on the knees, but I got mixed feelings on that because I know it's easier on the knees, the crushed gravel, but thinking about parents pushing strollers through gravel, can be a little difficult. And also just from a maintenance perspective, gravel can be a little bit much to keep up, so.
Are you thinking concrete?
Or blacktop.
Asphalt.
What about the stuff underneath the playground equipment, the foamy stuff, like what we have at Croy?
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice. It's expensive, but if we got the money, I would say that.
Yeah, I've not ever done it for a trail, but we will do it for playgrounds. It's expensive. It's $25 to $30 a square foot.
Wow. You can pay somebody up and get a better price.
So concrete, we're all good with concrete?
Somebody needs to start a business too.
Right.
At Discovery
expensive.
Green, we got ground up tires they're like the rubber mulch. And we use the same binder that they use to put the playground pellets down, and we mixed it ourselves and poured for in between the sidewalk and the curb. It was a real high traffic area, and they originally put
Yeah, I know what you're talking
happy and stuff like that. It was gone immediately. So we mixed up this rubber stuff and poured it ourselves. There's still stuff there after 14 years. It still is taking.
I like to use bonded shredded.
Yeah.
So it's kind of what you're talking about. It's not you can get patterns on it, but it's not highly decorative, and it wears pretty well. And if you need to repair it, it looks like it, it doesn't have a strange kind of discoloration that you have on it. But
It worked out really well for us because the backpack blowers wouldn't blow it away. We have that trouble with decomposed granite. It's always going off into the grass and getting hit by the mowers and whatnot. Also, water, it's a permeable surface. The water goes right through it, so you can pour it on top of your tree roots and whatnot, and it's perfectly permeable. We liked it very much, and I think you could easily get a stroller or something like that over it without any trouble. That binder holds it down, and it, like I said, it didn't move in 14 years.
Wow.
It does get fouled with dirt if it's like in a low-lying area and water filters down on top of it. Yeah, so that was kind of a problem, but we had a good permanent surface.
But we'll have a grounds
So
sounds like you've been volunteered.
it seems like we're pretty much in alignment with everything. The only question mark I still have is the dog park. Should we conceptually firm up some ideas with a dog park and without? I mean, would that be the kind of the go, no go on that, or?
If we don't do the dog park, does it just stay retention strictly?
Well, again, hopefully, we don't need much retention at all. We don't know yet, so.
You got that acre, you're not gonna need.
I don't think we are. I really don't.
Yeah.
But if we do, then we want to double purpose it. So maybe that's the litmus test. So all right, let's go down that route from it. Pretend like we don't need detention. We just have space. We know we want some type of a fence, even if it's a wrought iron or something, to protect everybody from getting out into 1128. Of course.
Right, that high traffic area, there's some sort of a buffer needs to be there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Fence and tree screen.
Vegetative screen there?
Just to cover up the sound and the motion of the traffic, so you
Okay.
feel separated.
Gotcha. So if we don't need the pond, do we still want to try and figure out a dog park, or do we want to do that somewhere else?
I'm biased. I want a dog park, but I wouldn't mind going to maybe the talk of Manvel and asking the citizens and kind of, getting some numbers from the people.
And it seems really, doesn't really require that much of committed resources to create a dog park. I don't know.
Dog parks, there's maintenance involved with them. There's quite.
But I mean, the
odor.
establishment of them, is it?
It depends on what you want to do. The one I was just mentioning was $500,000. Now that had detention and
You were talking about artificial
Parking.
turf and drainage. and
is
all
this the
that.
one that had DG? But it had a variety of dog play
Features.
a lot of
What
features.
you were talking about
But you can
much
make it
larger
pretty.
than this,
but you
though,
can make
right?
it pretty simple
Yeah.
and start there. And you have to have fencing. You have to have dual gates. You generally want to have a small dog gate and a big dog gate because you
Okay.
get dogs in a tight confined. It doesn't take much to set them. And so there's some things you still have to do, but you can do it pretty simple. Keep it with turf, a few things here and there, water station for dogs and fencing. So that's part of what we could go through is
Okay.
show some examples of
Yeah.
what it could be like. And it wouldn't derail the project
Okay.
thought process to come up with some different ideas.
So
Yeah.
I think if our council liaison, Keith, were here tonight, he'd probably talk about this on what council's expectations were. But the mayor's here, if that would be appropriate, Mr. Chairman, if he could maybe say what they were thinking about from the council standpoint, because this exhibit is what council has seen. So
Okay.
there could be, the expectation, if you will, that there's going to be a dog park, period. So, Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
is that appropriate? Do you have a minute?
Yes, sir.
I want to interject something just just real quick before he talks. Has anybody ever been to Kitty Hawk in Missouri City, to their dog park? If you've not gone to a dog park or really kind of know what he was talking about, that is a perfect example of what he's talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I've never been to a dog park, ever.
I've never been in there. I've just been outside of it because I don't take my dog to the dog
Yeah.
park.
So I need to go visit some dog parks.
Yeah, going towards Sienna.
Yeah.
And it's a huge park, but they've got everything we're talking about, but they've got an awesome dog park. It's the two together like what he was just talking about.
Okay. You said you called it Kitty Hawk?
Yeah, it's Kitty Hawk. It's right before Sienna and it kind of goes back.
Okay.
Over the railroad track.
Because I need to see some.
It's on the south side of 6.
There's also the one right there at 518 off of 288. You can see it when you're driving into Houston, right off to the right. There's a pretty massive dog park there,
Okay.
probably an acre.
You got the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm
Chairman.
sorry we interrupted.
No, you guys are good. I'm here at your pleasure. So love the discussion. You guys are covering a lot of great topics. So as the city, just to give you a little bit of context here and some of the bigger picture, as the city was looking at building the West Wing, there were conversations about buying this additional piece of land in the back. And council's discussion was, if we're going to be spending a lot of money to build another expansion to City Hall, let's make sure that we make some investments for things that the community can participate in each and every day. The Manvel market that's been happening is a testament to that, because we can see the traction that it's getting month after month after month. Eventually, what you'll see all the way down large is it's going to be commercial. It's going to be commercial lining Highway 6, and it's also zoned as commercial north of Highway 6. So when we think about what we're going to do for the park here, looking at that bigger picture, knowing that we have schools to the west, a school to the east, we have commercial development. The city is talking about ways to interconnect these different developments and help out individuals like Jackie Silva sitting back here who walks every day, making sure that there's multi-use off-road trails. This seems like the perfect opportunity for the city. I think Manager Dan said it perfectly about the detention. When the original thought for that was that we absolutely need that detention, let's make it multi-use. You have the subdivisions like Pomona, Meridiana, Del Bello Lakes, Blue Water, Valencia, Rodeo Palms, they have the spaces for dog parks. The two subdivisions on this side of town, Lakeland and Terra Estates, don't have that built into their subdivision. Plus, you do have the people that have acreage over here on this side of town, but I think understanding if they would have that desire for the dog park would be great. The multi-purpose was the thought process behind that. Instead of it just being an empty space that's not used, maybe you could do soccer goals, something like that there, but you don't probably want to do soccer goals with kids kicking balls really high right next to 1128. So what could go there? If you scratch that from the discussion that you don't need that detention, it opens up a lot of different possibilities. What council is really looking for when we see this and when we get what your recommendation is what do you think could go here? This right now is a blank slate. We know that we need the parking. We know that we want to do something for the community. We know that there's a need and there's a desire for trails and an inclusive playground and a place for the community to gather. So really it would be your recommendation working with our city experts and the experts out here to say, what do you guys think would be best that would draw the community in, doing as much as we can with the funding that's available. And if we can't get to everything right now, understanding what is that top priority, and then we could phase in the rest of it from that standpoint. So we're very excited to see what your recommendations are. Keeping as many trees as possible is definitely important to council, which we were presented with 3 options. It's kind of like the childhood story. You know, this one's too hot, this one's too cold, this one's just right. This is the general layout that hit a lot of the things that council was wanting to see, but the specifics, we're looking for some recommendations there. So that's a little bit of the context, the history. We definitely want to get moving on this. We know that it's a big desire. Parks and Recreation, as Mary Ann said in the survey, was one of the top priorities for the city. It's the reason why we're allocating funds in the budget, the investments that we've been making with Croy Park, and what we're doing here. So, do you guys have any questions that I might be able to answer?
I have a question. I'm not as active as you are, but has the city put together a master plan vision about the parks, trails, or anything? Have y'all done any work on that at all?
It's a great question, Mr. Sofka. So back in 2017, there was one that was done. And I think it had a good design for what the parks could be. It did not have the plan on the timeline on how to actually execute on that. So since that was done in 2017, that might be a great opportunity for the city to either look at grant dollars to update it or to look at providing funds within a future budget to get that updated. So there is one that's there, and when we look at things such as Dolores Martin Park, which is the big lake off of County Road 58, that's in the park plan. And when you look at that design, it's still a pretty good design. So a lot of those initial thoughts that were put to paper back in 2017, which some of you might have been involved with, I think Councilman Acree was involved with that. I think Brian was on council at the time. It's a good starting point, and I think we have a great opportunity to update that into what the needs are
I think that's
today.
important, particularly that, I've had some discussion with you about Pomona, what they're doing over there. I think we could look at Pomona and some of the other communities and maybe try to, or even parallel, and to start developing a trails plan. I think that's really critical. We got we're talking about green spaces, but a trails plan, if we all could get together about that, I think that would be really an asset we ought to consider.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I think that there would be, as far as the dog park goes, there'd be no shame in setting aside an area like for future use. We could build the gazebo, the pavilion, the playground, put in the trees, the trail, and then leave an area and see how people felt about a dog park. We don't have to build it all right away. We could get all of this done, first phase, and then find out what the desire of the community is. Maybe it's a dog park, maybe it's a bocce ball court. We have a history of that. Something else, some other use, but just have an area set aside, an open, sunny area where in the future we wouldn't have to remove any trees and say, kind of for future use, potential dog park or whatnot.
You could do goat yoga there. I guess that's
Yoga.
very popular.
Yeah,
Never tried it.
absolutely. And you always want your parks to be like a Swiss Army knife. You want to be able to have the pavilion is an idea that you can do a lot of different things with it. The parking lot is a place where you can use on the weekends to have farmers markets and food trucks. You want to have as many different things that you can do in the park as possible. And then setting aside an area for future use would be kind of the ultimate multifunction spot. So if we can't come to a conclusion now, or if we need input from the citizens, we can just say, area for a future dog park here.
And wouldn't it be better to take that trail that's around, I know this is just a design, but whatever we do with the open space, why don't we take the trail all the way out if we're already going to have to fence the property in and make more walking trail, all the way around,
Absolutely, yeah.
Agree.
So, but yeah, and I like that. I mean, let's leave it open and see. And if we put a dog park there, we put a dog park there.
Right.
It's perfect, it leaves it open for that.
And I think the big, for the board to take into consideration, and Manager Dan, is do we need that detention? And that's kind of the critical question that's going to have to be answered, because that's going to drive, because if you do need detention, that impacts the ability for the trail going around, because you have to slope that detention. If you don't, then I love the idea. And this is just me speaking within my personal capacity as mayor, but I love the idea of bringing it around, leaving it open for the time being, because then the city could use it for Easter egg hunts and for other things. And then as we go over time, gauging the community and seeing what their interest is.
I think that if we do need detention, then we should just go ahead and put in the dog park, make it multi-purpose detention and dog park. So if we need the detention, just go ahead and say, yes, we'll put a dog park there too. But if we don't need the detention, then it's more up in the air.
I would say our biggest ask is going to be coming from this board is action items. What would you guys like to see? What are the checklist of items that you want city staff, PGAL, and council to take into consideration as we approve these designs when it comes back before us? So shifting over the playground, if there's no detention, looping it around, doing a bigger gazebo or doing a pavilion, whatever that is, whatever recommendations you have, we appointed you guys because we trust each and every one of you. Each of you alternates and appointed members, you guys bring something to the table, and we want to make sure that we take that into consideration and execute on it.
Go ahead.
One other thing I was just going to throw out, a lot of times farmers markets or flea markets, the vendors like to pull in, open up the back of their car, and then put their tent out. So on the parking area, the most northern, I guess you could say, parking spaces, if you could make those just slightly longer, it would be easier for people to pull in and then have an area for farmers markets. It adds an extra 10 feet to a parking spot to have a tent behind it and still get around. But if we've got a little bit of extra land to play with, some deep parking spots does kind of make a difference.
I'd like to just have it for myself. I'd like to put my boots on the ground. I would think we would benefit from taking a walkabout, all of us, just to see what's there instead of just the concept here. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I'm certainly going to go over there and, walk around and see with this design, if we can get a copy of this design and just kind of put, ground truth it a little bit to see what's actually there. Just how close we are to 1128, just how close, anybody up for a visit, a site visit, or?
It was freshly mowed today.
I don't know if we have time today. I don't know what everybody's schedule is like.
Is it dark out?
It's very uneven, so just be careful walking around out there.
Okay.
It's very uneven.
Dan, is there a go, no-go on certain decisions? Is there a date that you would need?
We're literally about to do the kickoff meeting. When's the pre-development meeting? Is it next week? Next week. So I think is this good enough to get started, to start fleshing out a more than conceptual plan?
Oh, yeah.
The detail that you got tonight? Okay. So I would think we'd want to come back to y'all with, within, what do you think, a month?
Yeah.
Within a month? So maybe at your next meeting, bring back some, whether it's kind of a couple of different conceptual layouts like what we've done before, but more fleshed out. So we're good. We're perfect timing. Honestly, I mean that this is y'all's first project with the new board. I mean, it could not be better timing. So as far as the overall schedule goes, PGAL's been pretty quick. So once we've got a general, this is what we want from a parks board, we carry it to council. I mean, council meets twice a month, and we carry it to them, and they give us the thumbs up, or thumbs down, whichever one, or go back to parks board, tell them they missed the mark, or not, or we're just not going to waste our time. No.
Straight parking.
What's that? Skate park.
parking.
Oh yeah, straight parking. Yeah.
And these parking spots need to be according to our ordinance, so they're extra wide. So we call that the Dan Johnson rule, that, the parking spots are a certain width, and so.
10 by 20s.
10 by 20. 10 by 20.
They are 10 foot wide by 20 feet long.
Nobody hits somebody else's car when they get out.
Exactly.
If you hit another car, you wanted to. Yeah. You must have wanted to. There's no way you accidentally hit another car with a 10 foot wide spot.
We're really excited to see what you guys recommend to council, what staff recommends to council. I know a lot of people are excited about it. I do have to run. My daughter is performing with the cheerleaders tomorrow night at the Manvel versus Pearland game. So I hope you guys can come out, bounce back week from our loss to Shadow Creek. But Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the privilege to talk for a little bit. Is there any other questions I can answer for you guys?
I don't have anything. Does anybody have any other questions?
We'll just email them if we do.
Yeah, just email. You guys know how to get a hold of me. So, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Are we ready to move on to the next agenda item? Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action on Croy Park.
I would like to say one thing. It looked a lot better when we went out there a couple weeks ago. Us families were enjoying the park. I'd never seen that before. I was like, whoa! And there was kids running around in the botanical gardens, and the water feature's a little small for me, but I know we don't have nobody as a groundkeeper yet. What about extending those trails around the rest of the park? Is that something because that would be a good walking area too. Because we got the little, pea gravel trails there in the botanical garden. Maybe just take it a little bit further around and make a walking trail with that. We've got the football and the soccer stuff on the other side, but when you talk about trails and walking areas, we got the ones already there in the botanical garden area, and we could just, extend that out. And the playground equipment is beautiful. It's not completely ADA, but there is sensory. There's, all kinds of stuff in there. So that actually looked really good. The swings are a little high for me, but evidently there's a code about that. The swings are really high.
The swings are really high, and I think the park is completely ADA as far as
Yeah.
the ADA ordinance goes.
And just about wheelchairs getting in there is I think might be a little difficult.
Yeah, I think there is a way for them to get in. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the swings do seem like, I'm not a tall person, but I had trouble getting into those. And if I have trouble, then kids probably really have a hard time getting into the swings.
That was my only complaint, is really the swings are a little too high, but
Maybe they ran out of chain. I don't know.
maybe they evened it out all the way across.
I don't know. Have you seen the swings out there?
It's starting to look really good, and
tall city manager?
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what we're suggesting. All in favor?
Designed it after him.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been out there lately, I suggest, again, boots on the ground. Go look at it. It's coming together real well. The vegetation, I'm not an expert, Brian, but I think there could be a little bit more vegetation when we get this parks groundskeeper.
A lot of that stuff
Intact.
needs to grow in, too.
Yeah.
A lot of it's got that real fresh haircut look.
Right.
When it grows, it's going to look very different. One thing that I was unhappy with out there is that dead tree is still right next to the trail. And, dead trees, they don't make a lot of sound until they hit something when they're coming down. So,
Well, the tree has a purpose for woodpeckers.
I understand the snags are important in the landscape, but not being right
Yeah.
next to the walking trail. Those you see more out on the perimeter or something like that. I would expect to see dead trees out
Yeah,
there.
we could come off on my property and get a big tree and put it on the backside. We had to.
Just move that one.
I
And
like
then I
your
don't
idea
even
about the
know
trail.
what-
That was something I think we ought to consider, particularly going birding. If you go all the way around, we've got trees, so that's an idea. And I've had one conversation with Pomona. I'm trying to talk to them about possibility about, we've got Mustang Bio there. So we've got some opportunities there to consider, but definitely I think trails. It is mowed so people can walk around right now real easy over there.
Or is there still a problem with the wild hogs over there?
Not really, not right now.
Okay.
We don't know.
I know we used to put traps out there for them, but,
That's probably going to be hard to do, but we're pretty open, see?
yeah.
So there's not a lot of good vegetation. They like to dig in. They're not going to go for the small plants. So I think we're pretty safe there.
Okay.
Yeah, you have armadillos are going to be more of a problem out there digging those things up. Put the trailer on the park would be expensive. That would be something from city council would have to.
Yeah, like a phase, another
Yeah.
phase.
And there's not a parks plan for the rest of Croy Park.
That's what I was looking at.
Right. So, and from what I understand, Croy Park is outside of the city limit, and I don't think we really want to invest a lot of money outside of.
Well, there's a lot more to the parks plan, the 2017 parks plan for Croy. I mean, there's a huge pavilion that's supposed to be out there. Obviously, the restrooms could use help. So I think this is kind of a placeholder on your agenda for, we don't have anything budgeted per se for Croy, but as we wrapped up this next phase, so what is the next thing? What do we want to do? You're right, Brian, it's in the ETJ, technically, but at the moment, it's our only city park. So ETJ or not,
Right.
it's our park. It's certainly getting a lot more use now than it ever has. So the big effort, of course, was towards the garden. That's coming to a conclusion. So is there a recommendation to go ahead and move forward with the pavilion or move forward with parking or restrooms?
Parking is something we've talked
Yeah.
about for several years.
I think it would be really a good thing to put in a parking loop so that you have two entrances. And I find it, I know that curb cuts are a big deal, but with that size of a piece of property,
Yeah,
you
no,
have to
we're
be
fine.
able to get another curb cut. Getting fire trucks in and out, have a loop that eventually would lead around to a maintenance shed where we could keep mowers, a dumpster that'd be closer to the street that wouldn't be accessible to the general public.
I think the biggest thing that we could use help with is a grant for all of this. And I think it's coming back to me. That's why we wanted, because I know you all have some expertise in that, and we don't have a grants coordinator, of course, on staff yet. So, there's not a limit of things that we want to do out there, of improvements, of course. It's just, how are we going to fund it, quite frankly? So,
And I think a good question for all of us is what is the scope of what we can do? Because Linda is very interested in helping write grants.
We just got to focus. We just got to focus and have an idea of the overall view of what the park is for. Okay, so it just needs a focus.
Like if we wanted to put the pavilion there
Yeah.
or the parking lot.
Yeah, is this a family park?
Turning those on.
Is this a park for disabled? Is this a park for children? What is the park for?
I think generally you have one really large park that's kind of for city events, like your 4th of July,
Right.
Christmas tree lighting, and that's probably going to be where our 160 acres are, where our future city hall and stuff like that is. It would be one big park where the entire city has the ability to come.
Just a big complex for all that.
Just a big area. Lots of parking, lots of open land, all that kind of stuff. And then you would have regional parks, like maybe the city the size of Manvel might need 3 or 4 regional parks. They're kind of dotted around the city. And you have multi-use stuff that you can do at those. You could show movies, you could have concerts, you could have different pop-up things. I think Croy Park is 20 acres. It's big enough that you could do a lot of different things. And then you have a lot of pocket parks all over the city where you push a stroller to and there's a swing set and stuff like that. So Croy Park, in my mind, is like a regional multi-use park. Something that the people that are around it could go to. You don't go to the big giant park, the big city hall park. But it's big enough where you can run around. It's got a dog park, a pavilion. It's got a lot of different things that you can do. You could have exercise classes there. If you're going to take a yoga class, you don't want to drive all the way across the city to go to a yoga class. So you have those.
Fitness. It could be dedicated to fitness.
Well, it would be,
One section, maybe.
yeah, it would be a multi-use park.
Okay.
So fitness, entertainment, festivals. You could have a food truck event out there, and then the following week have it at another regional park.
Do the subdivisions all have athletic fields in their parks? Like, there isn't an organized soccer group or anything like that? Do we have, and what about the kids that are training to do marathons and so on? Is it really appropriate for them to be in the streets? Or should they be in a park doing their runs and having their track there? So I'm just thinking about ways in which you could increase fitness, but also help with safety too. Get the community involved in staying fit. Get the community involved in doing sporting activities. That's important. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, that's just one focus. But if that's just, let me know your focus and I'll start looking for money. That's all we need. An idea.
Ideas are the most powerful weapons in the world.
Right, they are.
Dan, do you have a update on the progress of the construction and the completion of that at Croy?
I don't, actually, Paul would have probably been the perfect person to update us on that, because he's out there pretty regularly. I think that the last part that we need to do, they were about to do the final walkthrough when I talked to Wale last. So, I mean, they're just about complete. And then what we wanted to do was, because we haven't started them, I know we haven't gone to council yet for the final approval, because that's what will start the maintenance period. And then we wanted to visit with them about extending that maintenance period. And coincidentally, so my two oldest, they both work at Great Wolf Lodge, in Webster. And as we pulled up to go check it out for the first time, the big sign out front is the same group, Landscape Art. That's who did all the landscaping around Great Wolf. So I thought, okay, well, that's a good,
that's good.
that's a good endorsement there. Paul, while you were stepped out, they were asking about the update, I guess, at Croy, how close they are, the contractors, to completing.
I talked to Wale today. He's in the final stages of going through the park, making a checklist, see if everything is done properly. There's been some changes, minor changes done, so it's pretty well completed. It's a beautiful park. And some of the council, some of you don't know, is one of the purposes of the Crow Park was to making a birding opportunity there. So all of the plants are Texas native plants. And if you've got, when you have Texas native plants, you can see a lot of butterflies out there. I have a sanctuary at my place, and today I had one tree, one area of plants. I saw about 12 butterflies. If you don't think that's heaven, for me, it's heaven. So the idea is the Crow Park is to get families involved and give them kids opportunity to see what nature is. Because families need to understand what nature is. We're in a problem, so we're going to do this. There's another avenue that I'm going to pursue. I'm going to talk to Glenn about is put some more trees over, some native trees where the bird pond is, and put up some habitat there for the birds to come in. The park is typically open, but you've got to have some
There's not a lot of cover.
thicket there. So that's the next project that I'm going to be working on, and I've got some ideas there. So, but what a great park! It is beautiful.
Yeah, I was there,
Samuel,
I was there
I'd like
last
to-
week, and it really looked.
Samuel, I'd like to take you over there and give you an update. Give you a tour when you're available. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
I really would. So,
Okay. Yeah.
Afterwards, I'll get your phone number and we can make that happen. Okay?
I actually stopped by. I think it was maybe late August and checked it out. But I would love to.
Yeah, it's pretty well completed, but it's just beautiful. I mean, it really is. Really is. It's going to be a testament to the city. So if we could continue what we're doing here, it's going to be a great opportunity.
I like the idea of it being Texas native.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah. See, if you want if you want butterflies, monarch, and one of the ideas that I have too is we can have some events out there and get the gardeners, the Brazoria County out there with plants to plant Texas native and educate the population about getting away from pesticides. If you want to see butterflies, you've got to stay away from pesticides, and you have the Texas native. It's a natural draw. Right. So it's just a great opportunity for an education. So I'm looking for the park to be an educational format for people at Nair and also Pomona over there. They have a garden club over there too, and I'm going to start talking to them about maybe doing some networking over there with them so we can kind of collaborate too.
Right now, the push is in research to look at sustainability.
Pardon?
Sustainability is what a lot of people are doing research on as far as parks go.
Yeah.
So that gardening idea is a great thing.
Yeah.
Because that would teach everyone how to do gardening.
Right,
things like
absolutely,
that. Yeah.
absolutely.
So that would be a great thing to write a grant on.
Yeah.
In today's environment.
And hopefully we can have some kind of grand opening or something on that thing. We'll talk about that later.
Have you thought about maybe putting in more of a water feature to get the dragonflies out? Because the dragonflies eat mosquitoes. They eat 100 mosquitoes at a time. And with my pond, I have dragonflies all over the yard.
Yeah.
And my pond's, I guess, the shape of a kidney pool that you would put in the backyard.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we have mosquitoes, but you see them, I have hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Hundreds of them.
I know what you're talking about. I see that
And they're
too.
different colors, and
Yeah.
and I don't think they'd be there if my pond wasn't
Yeah.
there. And with the little water feature that's there now, that's just not enough for
Yeah, well,
birds and stuff.
that's
So,
we'd have to put that in addition to that, which is a good idea. Maybe fishing pond for kids too, you know.
yeah,
That's something we
definitely.
can talk about.
Those little ponds are large enough for some dragonflies. I've seen them laying eggs in a bird bath before.
Mm-hmm.
We had an acre lake at Discovery Green, and we had dragonflies all over the place. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize that they were an aquatic insect.
Yeah.
But it's just the larger the water, the more you have. So we will have some there. It's not as much as if you have a
And
pond your
bats,
size.
bats eat the mosquitoes too. What do you think
Bats-
about bat houses?
Well, I have a bird sanctuary of about, and I've been working on this for 15 years, and I have a sanctuary. Part of it, I have a meadow out there probably about a third of an acre with Texas native. You ought to see the dragonflies
Yeah.
going across that.
I say
Just going across that.
Yeah. Bat houses are great. You can't put them next to your picnic tables.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, but you don't have.
Yeah, you won't
don't
like
want
it.
to.
Hose them down every day.
Yeah, you don't want to. But
But the
they
guano would
definitely
be
serve a
pleasant.
purpose.
Yeah.
You can also plant palm trees and leave the fronds, and that's a natural. Those are natural bat houses.
Right.
I was just kind of, when you were starting to talk about the park, I was just thinking, I used to have 3 bats that would fly around the front yard and eat the mosquitoes where the pine trees are. And this last couple of months, I haven't seen them at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Because of the storm, you think?
I don't know if that's what it was, because I saw them before the storm, and that's when they kind of started disappearing. I got 2, then 1. Now I don't have any. I don't have any bat houses either, but I think they were living in Joe's barn.
Oh, yeah.
But they would fly around there. I know I've sat out there for 30, 40 minutes, just going
Yeah.
back and
They're
forth.
very beneficial.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are like, well, they got rabies. Yes, they can have rabies, but, you're not going to sit there and play around with the bat. I mean, come on.
And just about any creature can have rabies.
Exactly.
Any mammal.
Any mammal. Yeah, it's not just bats.
They're not, see that, and a lot of people have that fear of the bats, but they don't realize how beneficial they are. So,
Absolutely. Mosquitoes.
yeah, we definitely got off subject there.
So I think Dan was trying to turn our attention to the monitors. He actually put
That's Croy Park, right?
Croy Park, yeah.
That is from the parks plan.
From this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The six soccer fields and 30 parking spaces. I think that the balance is a little off on that
I do too,
myself, but
since we don't have any teams or anything.
And
Yeah.
this took out the backstops, the baseball stuff too. There's what, 4 of them out there? Or at least 2, I know for sure.
I know there's 2 soccer fields and 2 baseball backstops.
Okay.
I was on the county parks board, and the Resoff Park is the most used park because they have all the ball fields out there. But ball fields have a lot of cars and a lot of traffic.
Yeah, there's not enough parking now.
No, so either you need less ball fields or more parking. But I don't, oftentimes you'll see at cities where all of the ball fields are clustered in a ball field park.
Right.
Where you've got sports fields, you've got parking, you've got some concessions, and that's about it. I think if the sports fields really get going, it's going to be detrimental to the botanical garden because you're going to have a lot of people,
Right.
a lot of traffic. I don't know if turning Croy Park into a fundamentally sports park would be good. I think a more balanced approach where you have a soccer field, a ball diamond, maybe a tennis court, a basketball pavilion, a big pavilion, just like a lot of, like I said, a multi-use stuff, like a Swiss Army knife instead of like a steak knife or a fillet knife.
Just a place where people can go and practice and have fun, where this looks like it's a facility for soccer people. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's a soccer facility. On that plan, they don't have a traffic loop. There's no maintenance facility there. There's no place for a dumpster. I love the trail.
Yeah, they say they got the trail all the way around.
Trail's
Yeah.
good. That's great. You don't have the ability on that plan to drive to the restroom, to take a truck right to the restroom, which would keep them a lot cleaner if you have a crew that could drive around.
Right now, they got to still drive on the grass, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think having a plan for where the sports fields would be, what each park would do, and how the phasing for building those, I think that is probably one of our main missions on being a parks board, is to, we can build anything we want if we take it a bite at a time. It's kind of the metaphor of the man eating the elephant. It's just one bite at a time. Eventually you'll get it done. But having a plan, if we had a good plan for Croy Park, we could go out and put in the trees now so that in 10 years, they've filled out, right? Because we know we don't want to plant trees where there's going to be a ball field. We don't want to plant trees where there's going to be a pavilion.
Yeah.
So knowing where those things are, we don't have to build them today, but just knowing where they are would enable us to do other stuff. We could put the trails in, we could put the trees in without costing a lot of money while we concentrate on things like Acree Park or Martin Park. Do other stuff.
When you think of the ball fields and the soccer fields, wouldn't you want them as far away from the botanical gardens as possible?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause you don't want to chase everything away.
right.
You want to keep the noise at a minimum.
Right.
So it's closer to their natural habitat. So you're trying to build a habitat there. So are you going to have a fitness park, or are you going to have a park with gardens and
Botanical Park.
botanical gardens and the birds and the insects? Are we going to have all that? I don't think it's very practical for everything in one place. It'd have to be separated somehow.
Yeah, we could easily do that with the tree line too.
Yeah.
That's my
Correct.
thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. Because if you want to attract birds, you've got to have cover and you can't have a lot of noise all the time.
That's right.
I mean, for the migratory birds I'm talking about.
One of the problems with the tree line, I'm just kind of chit-chatting, but a lot of the large trees are not actually on the Croy Park property. They're on the fence line, so some of them are on this side and a lot of them are on the other side. Well, that property hasn't been developed yet, but when a developer comes in, there's no guarantee that they're going to keep a lot of those large trees. So thinking ahead and putting some trees along the tree line, if we want to keep it wood and keep that screen, psychologically, the part of parks in any kind of garden that carries the most weight are the walls that contain it. We always talk about garden rooms, right? Or you've got your yard, you've got your fence, you think of it in a certain way. The fence line around Croy Park, it carries a lot of weight psychologically because you feel like you're in a certain spot. You think of Croy Park and you think if that fence line was gone, if it was just open, you would have a very different feel. So if we do a little forethought now and go in and plant some long-lasting trees along the fence line, it probably would have a great impact over the next 50 years of the park.
And that could be a community service type activity that we could do and kind of lower the cost for the city.
Sure, I know you can get a lot of grants for trees.
That and
Sure.
do the garden club with the kids, have them out and
Yeah.
plant the tree,
So I think I'm going to look at sanctuary, sustainability, gardening, those kind of things. Maybe get a start on that, because that's a hot topic right now. Maybe I can find something that we can get funding on.
The double-edged sword with grants is once you get the money, you have to actually do the work.
Well, that's okay. You're going to do the work, right? How much money do I need to put in for people to maintain it? Don't you, when you write a grant, don't you put down for personnel too? So it might pay for somebody to take care of the grounds. Yeah. So you need 2 million? Is that all?
Well, that's what it was 10 years ago, or
Just
almost 10 years
2
ago.
million.
But that also includes some of the stuff that's already been done, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But anyway, we had a plan, at least, whether we, like y'all said, move forward with this plan or not. The walking trail still seems like a good plan.
Yeah, the walking trail is good.
The parking's still going to be needed. The pavilion's still going to be needed, so all those are real things.
Yeah.
And this dog park, just Joe's and I were kind of talking about how big for dog parks, and this one happens to be right at half an acre is what they had. But now they only had That seems exceptionally low there, $40,000. I guess that's just literally the fence.
Must be, yeah.
Yeah, because that
Half acre fenced-in area.
stuff is a little bit on the pricey side.
Yeah.
Okay.
But isn't there a dog park across the street from this right now?
In Pomona?
Yeah, there is. There's a little building and there's a place to sit out underneath the awning and then there's the dog park. It's like the water thing's here and the,
Is that, I know it's like a daycare facility across the street. There's the well.
well, it's just one little building though, so I don't think it's a daycare. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like,
That's a
yeah, it's
dog park?
on the right side.
Oh, okay.
You gonna bring it up?
I didn't know that, no.
I don't know if it's updated. Yeah.
Oh,
It's-
okay.
It's fairly new. I don't know if it'll be updated on there.
Dog parks are a lot of maintenance because there's a lot of smell issues that go along with them, so
Oh,
they're.
you're making me dizzy. No.
Not that we, not that two of them wouldn't, but yeah, I'm just saying, isn't there?
So there's the water facility,
And
That
see
right
that,
yeah.
and see that area right there where it's green? I think that's where it's at now. Maybe if you go down into the street level, they're more,
Right close to the corner.
Oh, to the
It's
corner?
right on the bio, sits right
Oh.
on Mustang Bio.
Corner of where Pomona's at.
Over here in this wooded area?
yeah,
Yeah.
I believe it's,
It'd be on the left-hand side up there.
so you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, it's a new facility. Pomona put it together for, it's a small park's what it is. No, it's further down.
You've got to love technology. This is amazing.
It's closer to Pomona Drive or whatever that is.
Yeah, it's also
Bailey.
right near
Yeah.
the bio too.
Where that building's at.
And then across the street, like right in there.
Where
That may-
the overhead is showing the building there.
Yeah.
I skipped a lot of stuff today.
Anyway,
Oh, back here?
See where that building's at the back?
that's it right there.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
That's a dog park?
So did we just declare victory then? The dog park's completed. Good job, guys. All right. 1 month in and you already got a dog park.
It's a small one.
Really move fast.
But if you go look at Kitty Hollow, that's, like I said, and actually, I love that park. My kids grew up over there. We grew up over there and that park just, yeah, they have alligators, but any park at the pond's gonna have alligators. But you go fishing and there's pavilions, there's all kinds of different playgrounds scattered around, there's a fitness area. I mean, it's great. So if you've never seen it and if you go see it, it's not quite like Discovery Green, but it's functional. They got the ball fields, they got the soccer fields, they got all of that, kind of like what you're looking at here, and it's just in your face then. You see it.
And you said it's on the south side of Highway 6?
When you're going towards Sienna, which you should know, Joe's, it is on the right, it's the north side. But when you go in and then you go back behind the tree line, and you don't see it from Highway 6. You see the road goes back in there.
Okay, so it's the north side of Highway 6.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Okay, I went there years.
Yeah, it's been there for a very long time. Because like I said, my son we used to do a baseball practice out there.
Probably a low area.
Well, all that was the rice and cotton out there is what that was.
See, that's about halfway through the park.
Yeah. But it's kind of like everything that we've been talking about, I'm pretty sure they have it there. So it'd be a good,
It's a good template.
yeah.
I'm saying.
How many acres is that?
It's huge.
Yeah, it looks
It's huge.
big.
It goes all the way, and the dog park is all the way in the back. Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
It was somebody's plantation, and they still have the house in there. The historical part of the house is in there.
Is that land still for sale behind Croy Park?
the Collins property?
Yeah.
But if you want to, kind of take a look at it, I think this is, everything that we're talking about is obviously just a larger scale. But yeah, see, there's the house. That was what the family actually lived in. So that used to be a deal, and now that's the historical thing there. Yeah, if you keep, I think still go.
Tour the house?
Yeah, it's open certain days of the month that you can do that. They have ice cream socials and stuff like that there too. Yeah. Because there's more pavilions back there, and then it goes into the dog parks right there. And they have where you can wash the dog and everything.
Do they have a large dog area and a
Yes.
small dog area?
Yes, they have it all.
Yeah.
And like I said, they've got places where when you come out, you can wash your dog and do all that. And I know that Pearland has one too, right off of,
288.
Yeah.
well, there's actually one by Independence Park too.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're
Yeah,
right.
there's one there, but this is kind of like what he was talking about for that small dog, big dog. And they do have some of the agility stuff at Pearland where they have mostly a sitting area and covered stuff here. So
Yeah, and you have to have double gates.
it's, yeah, you got both of that. And the washing facility, there's two also. But that was just when everything started coming up about that. This actually came to mind first because I've seen it. I've been out there. But if it's just something you guys want to take a few minutes, drive down Highway 6, and it's open from dusk to dawn, and it's open every day except probably Christmas and
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
It's 190 acres.
190 acres, okay. So that's bigger than Croy Park. I'm not good at math, but I think that's bigger.
Yeah.
One thing about dog parks, I see that there's just dirt inside there. That's
Yeah,
probably.
they've got some of the grass in there, but see, I like the thing about the turf, like what he was talking about, but.
It is so, one, it's very expensive, and two, it's just so hard to maintain. For artificial turf, you have to put in subsurface drainage, and you've got to do a lot of different things. There was a park downtown, they're a new park, and I can't remember their name, but they put it in AstroTurf Dog Park, and they had to get out there and vacuum it once a week just to get the
dirt and everything.
The leaf stuff would foul it up. Things would get in little pores, and then it wouldn't drain anymore, right? And so artificial turf for a dog park is very labor intensive. Decomposed granite is a lot easier, but the odor builds up to a point where you've got to scrape it off and replace it. Dirt is really the most cost effective.
Is
easiest to maintain.
that the best way to actually go then, is the dirt? I mean,
Unless we get a giant grant,
where we can put like the playground equipment stuff in there?
yeah, that kind of stuff.
The rubber?
That rubber was pretty affordable. I don't know if I'd use it in a dog park, but as far as a trail, it could make a good surface for a trail. But dirt for your dog park, unless you've got big bucks, that's definitely the way to go.
Well, even when it comes to maintaining it over time, that would be the best option.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, because always put more dirt out, huh?
But you can till it, you can smooth it, and the odor is gone. It's ready to go. You don't have a lot of downtime.
That's a pretty good idea. All righty.
So then on agenda item B, were you looking for something specific from us tonight, or just kind of brainstorming like we've been doing?
I think brainstorming, and I mean, if that's a real possibility for Linda to help out looking, for grant opportunities.
Okay.
Obviously, we can help out providing whatever information is needed, to help the application, of course, whatever we need to do on our end. But we just don't have the expertise in-house to even know where to go to look. I mean, everybody's got a full-time job already, right? So, so I think mission accomplished, quite frankly, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. How are we looking on time?
This meeting is over with at 8 o'clock, so
I have 4 minutes. It only took us 2 hours to do the first two, so we easily get through these in 4 minutes.
So should we should we punt agenda item C to the next meeting, or?
it's your pleasure. You know, do we? I don't know if we're to the point where you need a subcommittee just yet, because if we were going to break out the city part, the city hall park, we kind of did that today already.
Yeah.
So there's nothing else to do just yet. So, candidly, I don't know. What do you think, Joseph? Is there an opportunity for subcommittees yet, or?
I agree with you. I don't think right now there's a need for it. Maybe we can wait on and see if there's a need that arises.
Yeah, and maybe that may be a discussion. Maybe we have a grant subcommittee at some point, but we can definitely start doing some research.
I'll look for some grants and be ready next meeting with some ideas,
Okay.
okay?
All right, that brings us to agenda item D, discussion and possible action to approve the minutes to date.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I second.
Motion has been applied and seconded. Motion granted. All in favor, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion approved. All right, are we any new business? Are we ready to adjourn?
We're good to
Yeah,
go.
that's the next thing.
Do we have a date for the next meeting, or is that something when you just wait till Tammy comes in?
We'll wait and communicate when we have a date.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, on the adjournment, so it's been tradition that somebody makes a motion and you vote on it. It's never failed here that I've seen. You don't technically have to make you can just say this meeting is
do that.
adjourned.
Okay.
But it seems like it's fun for y'all
Okay, well,
to vote on.
Larry has already made a motion, so do I have a second
I
to adjourn?
second.
You already jumped on that.
Meeting adjourned.
There we go.